Within an 18-month span, 4 rapes were alleged at the hands of one person. In the first case, a woman was walking to the store at night. She was placed in a chokehold at gunpoint, told she would be killed, led to a vacant building where she was sexually assaulted repeatedly with several rounds of fellatio, vaginal, and anal intercourse. He ejaculated in her mouth. She was forced to swallow it.
Nelson Clifford has been public enemy number 1 for our sex offense investigators for a number of years.
Nelson Clifford broke into my home, tied me up, and raped me. He told me that if I screamed, he would kill my children. I had to suffer through not only my own trial, where I was forced to recount my entire sexual history in front of Nelson Clifford and his defense team, but also my brothers, my father, and my husband. After I was denied justice, I sat in the trials of other sexual assault victims and watched how he lied over and over again, leading the jurors to believe that he was just a regular guy having casual sex with acquaintances or prostitutes. Every time a not guilty verdict was delivered in his favor, I felt like I had been raped again.
I am a survivor of a violent rape. It is important for the members of this committee to know that the brave women sharing their stories with you today are survivors, not victims. My attacker was never arrested, charged, or convicted. I never had my day in court. I can only assume that he is still out there preying upon women in our community.
From age 4 to 11, someone molested me that everyone in my family considered a family friend. What I did not know until several years later was that Uncle Charlie had raped and molested 8 other children, my brothers, sisters, and young cousins in my family.
Senate Bill 235 allows evidence of other criminal acts by the defendant in certain sexual offenses to be admissible under requirements and limitations. These sexual offenses include sexual abuse of a minor and first and second degree rape.
In addition to the 3,000 signatures collected on a petition in support of this bill, 2,755 of those signatures are from your constituents. Furthermore, you'll see today that prosecutors from around the state have responded to our call for action against serial rapists and child molesters escaping justice because of current law.
Police say a man raped a 13-year-old girl in East Baltimore last night.
Baltimore police have released a sketch of a suspect accused of raping a teenager.
Investigators say he had a gun and they are afraid that he will attack again.
There is no law that covers rebutting a consent defense in a sexual assault case. So if someone comes into court and tries to explain the DNA evidence and says that the victim consented to the sexual activity, we have no ability as prosecutors to rebut that.
And we didn't win first-degree rape, and we didn't win second-degree rape. We won third-degree sex offense. And why Mr. Clifford is sitting in jail for 31 and a half years is because we filed enhanced penalties because of his earlier conviction, so he was facing life on third-degree sex offense. We used everything that Maryland state law gave us, and we were shot down at every single turn. When you look at Mr. Clifford's cases side by side by side, it is scary. They are almost identical.
Those who were victims should also be treated with justice. When you have the kinds of histories that some of the persons had that were pointed out to us, I don't understand how one would walk and how that prior evidence would not be able to be introduced when a clear pattern has been shown.
Although the bill is moving in the Senate, it's meeting stiff opposition by one person in the House. Judiciary Committee Chairman Joe Valario has the power to determine whether the legislation survives.
The House has its own version. You don't want to move that one?
The House bill. If we work on it, we'll be working on the Senate bill. If we work on it.
I would say that it should be in line with the federal law. I want to thank the state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby, for putting in this bill. This is a get tough on crime bill. And I think that we need to get tough on serial sex offenders, serial rapists.
Chairman Valario is a defense attorney. He believes the Judicial Rules Committee should make the decision or it happens through case law.
It's a pretty drastic step, very drastic step, because somebody's accused of a crime that happened on this day and they want to say, hey, look, you had a bad act. Now, how much of that bad act are you going to get into?
I don't want anyone to leave here today believing that this issue only impacts residents of the city of Baltimore.
Today you will hear about cases in Harford County, Charles County, Calvert County. And finally, you will hear the story of how a community of over 3,000 spent their Christmas in 2010 looking for this little girl.
11-year-old Sarah Foxwell's body was found back on Christmas Day of 2009. She had been raped and suffocated. It's Thomas Leggs, who had faced sex crimes charges 6 times before kidnapping Sarah Foxwell.
When you look at this particular case, the most frustrating part of this particular case is that this guy, Thomas Leggs, should not have had the availability. He should have been dealt with in a different manner. Thomas Leggs was already registered and convicted sex offender, and had some of this law that we're trying to get enacted been in place, then very likely Sarah would not even be a story and not have been a victim.
So for the 3rd year, Mosby's lobbying for legislation in Annapolis that would allow prosecutors to introduce evidence of a defendant's relevant prior sex acts or abuse of a minor.
Thomas Leggs, a registered sex offender in both Maryland and Delaware, admitted to pouring gasoline in Sarah's mouth, on her face, and on her chest to destroy his DNA after he ejaculated on her pajamas. In a statement to law enforcement, he smiled as he told prosecutors how well she did at performing fellatio on him. Leggs was previously charged with 5 other serious crimes, including molesting a 12-year-old girl at a Halloween party, groping another little girl at an arcade, and raping a 13-year-old girl in Delaware, all before he ever reached 11-year-old Sarah.
House Bill 218 is important to get the sexual predators off the street.
And as such, we need to do everything in our power to protect these children. You can't always save the ones that have already been victimized, but what we most assuredly can do is bring in all the evidence required to convict these individuals to ensure that they don't victimize anyone else. And I believe that this bill assist in doing that.
But despite the personal stories of sexual assault survivors like SHATIA Lansdowne, despite a letter from the mother of Sarah Foxwell, despite unanimous passage in the Maryland Senate and clear support from nearly all of the delegates, the House failed to bring the bill to a vote.
There's a couple of reasons. Most prominently is the courts make those decisions on what should come in and what should not come in. And it's very hard to think about legislating in that area.
But State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is not giving up. She, along with survivors, advocates, and other members of law enforcement, pledged to fight again and invite you to fight with them in 2017.
But as elected officials with the power to reform, we must level the playing field and stop promoting a rape culture in Maryland. Thank you, Senators BROCHIN, Casserly, Raskin, and Reddy, for your support on this bill.